Bitcoin has created a brand new high. We went above 108,000. We went to 109,000. And the question is, are we up from here, or is now the time that Bitcoin is going to kind of let us down and crash? Let's kind of dig into it and really see what the market has for us right now. And I'll kind of share my 2 cents on where I think it's going. So, first things first, obviously, we want to acknowledge the fact that we did get a new high. That is a good sign. But for those who have watched previous videos, I talk about the wicks a lot of times, and I kind of view it as a balancing act. That when things get too heavy on one side, it kind of wants to go back to the other side, and really vice versa. And so, really, where we sit right now is in a very unique position in that we have this large wick to the upside, this large wick to the downside. And so which one gets filled first? And so one of the things that I'll dig into here in this video is not just what direction it's going to go and the likelihood of the fact that the price is going to go back to fill these wicks, but kind of the order as well. So let's first talk about a very busy looking chart. That is our really our main Bitcoin chart. This has kind of been the thing we've been using this entire time to, let me make sure I'm on a logarithmic view, to kind of show support and resistance here, to kind of show the tops here that line up over here. All that is just fine and dandy. And really, as we kind of zoom in, we've talked about how we might have to, go down here and revisit this range of like 73, 74, 75, somewhere right around there. Obviously, filling this little box as well. This is a CME gap, which just means that the futures market over the weekend ended on Friday here, open on Monday up here, leaving this big gap. And a lot of times these are getting filled with high probability. So there's still a small percentage chance that that does get filled. Doesn't have to get filled because there's still one down here at 20,000. I've deleted it. Oh, it's over here. Anyway, there's literally one down here as well that probably is never going to get filled because that's just silliness. So statistically, the further you move away from it, obviously the lower chances become. So really what we're looking at here is I've kind of adjusted two different things. Number one, I've adjusted what was the green lines that I've had kind of showing our channel kind of going up. It's kind of been collapsing. These sides are closer than these sides. Literally been collapsing. We did break down below that. We did confirm below that, and we've kind of stayed below that. It's acted, instead of acting as support and bouncing on top of it, we're now acting as resistance and hitting above it. You could see that it happened here. It happened here again, obviously on the way up. It just happened the other day. And so this is a little bit of a bearish thing from a channel perspective, but there are two big lines here, the bottom of the range and the top of the range. And the bottom of the range is, as long as we stay above this, we're good to go. And as long as we stay below this, we're going to stay below this. Basically, if we can get above here and kind of confirm above here, like close above here, yeah, we're probably going to push up to a little bit higher of a number and see where that goes. I would look at this line and say it wouldn't be crazy to just continue heading up that trend line. Just depends on kind of when it happens. Today, that's like 120 grand. A month from now, that might be 130 grand. But we'll see. January statistically has been a month where we've seen some pretty big sell-offs. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Probably the biggest one that I can think of is probably most likely rebalancing. Something like this where you've grown this much in a year, you can sell it at the end of the year, causing end of year selling. Typically they do that for tax purposes, but when it's up like this, you typically are going to roll that over to the next year, and you want to sell it off in January and rebalance your portfolio. So if Bitcoin has become too big of an allocation in your portfolio, I'm going to go ahead and sell some, and I'm going to move that money to something else so that Bitcoin doesn't sit here and take over my portfolio, is how traditional finance looks at it. In other news, though, what's really fascinating is, and I'm pretty sure it's on this chart, is that when we look at the dips from the past, and we look at really how it looked in January and kind of what that 30% sell-off looked like, what's fascinating is if you kind of check this out, this literally says down at the bottom, January 12th. January 12th was the lowest day That's when the low actually happened for the 2017 cycle, the 12th. And the reason I'm sharing that is because I just find it fascinating when we go and we look at other years and we zoom in here and we look at the 2021 cycle. In January, it sells off. And what was my low dates? This one was the 22nd. This was the biggest sell-off date. And guess what day it was? Happens to be boom, 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 big sell-off the 11th. And so I just find it interesting. This cycle had kind of two big sell-offs here. This one obviously selling off a little bit more, but percentage-wise, it might be the same. This is a very large candle. This is a very large candle. But it held that support, and these are all really good. These are really great things to know. So really, when we come back and look at this chart, and I want to see what does it look like from the standpoint of what is my low day in January? Well, here's January. Here we are on January 13th. So it kind of shows you that first week or two, when you look at a calendar that you can't see on my screen, but it depends on when the Monday is, right? That first week of selling, you're going to kind of see that. Maybe the first or second week. But you kind of definitely have seen a trend of that 11th, 12th, 13th, right around there. Within those first 2 weeks of January, that's when a lot of the selling happens. Boom, boom, boom. And then eventually you get a little bit of a capitulation. People freak out and they sell off, and then it gets bought right back up. On top of that, what do we see? This purple line is our 50-day exponential moving average, and we've closed above every single time. Somehow we've found a way to close above, and I find that really fascinating, and that's very bullish. In this case, it kind of counteracts what I've said before. But either way, really where we are is we've been in this $90,000 to $100,000 range pretty consistently down here, and then we kind of broke above due to, I think it's just speculation. It's the first Bitcoin pro crypto presidential candidate, now president-elect, president in general. I don't know if there's a formal word for that. That's not my area of expertise. But the bottom line is we've been going up, and things look very, very good at the moment because of this green candle. And I'm going to explain why I'm not expecting it to be really as great as everyone is hoping. So obviously the bottom of the range is really what we got to hold. I think I still have things like this is our low. This is our daily candle, that our close of a candle. This is as low as it goes. So if it passes by here, that's a really bad sign. If it passes by here, this wick right here, this is our lowest wick. That's probably the worst sign. This is literally the last stop before the free fall where support happens. And with all this, with this gap here that is a part of the futures market, that's going to be a magnet pulling it down. All these green candles with no red candles, that is called liquidity. And this liquidity is going to be eaten up pretty dang fast. And so chances are we're going to stop right around this consolidation here, maybe probably at the top of the bottom of it, so 75, 76. Or what's most likely is we're going to retest this orange line because this was our top last time. And, our retest of the support resistance line here before kind of breaking through. So this is a low probability at the moment. I don't really think that these are going to be the variables at this time because everything has been pushing up. See how we've kind of got an upward thing going. The problem is upward sloping channels, if you've heard me say this before, typically break down, and downward sloping channels typically break up. So here it was going up, it broke down. So is that enough? We don't really know. Did it hold the 50-day EMA? Yes, it did. So to me, this is still a very good thing. But I think what's going to happen is we have we have three main wicks we're looking at. And really, let me see if I can grab a little bit of an arrow, and I'll kind of point them out to you. Wow. So really, we have this guy right here, right? And realistically, this is 100% of the wick, and this is probably about 50% of the wick. Really, 50% of the wick is plenty to consider it. Hey, we filled the liquidity in this space. A lot of times it goes to 100. That's what happened down here when this candle. I posted a comment about this, the wicks being filled, and this is a while ago, because on some charts, depends on the exchange, this wick came and filled this, and so I think depending on the chart that I was looking at, well, we won't go into those yet. Depending on the chart that I'm looking at, I was like, okay, it's filled, we're good to go. And it did get a good chunk filled, so that's a good start. But it did want to go ahead and fill 100%. And what's fascinating is this wick also happens to fill this 50% of this wick. So this kind of filled a lot of this liquidity range down here, but in doing so, it literally created its own giant wick as well. So we have this wick. The other wick that we have that is of interest to me right now is this one, and then obviously the lowest wick down here. So this wick's going to get filled because I think that we're retesting this wick literally right now. And if I go look at it on a 1 hour time chart, whoa, those arrows look pretty fancy. I'm pretty sure we've really reached there. So 107, did it get to 108? It did not get to 108. I'm kind of curious in taking a little bit of a short position, really right in here if it gets up there. Because if I'm wrong, I will, basically at 110, I'll get out of it, and just take a small loss versus getting in now and taking a little bit bigger loss if I'm wrong. So long story short, all these wicks right here are saying selling pressure. It sold off, and here we are working our way back up to fill what is the 4 hour wick or the daily candle wick. And so that is happening right now. And in fact, we already passed 50%. So this may be it for filling this wick. This may be a wick that we can check off, primarily because it is on the top side. The top side meaning that I believe in the future we're eventually going to go higher than this. And so this is going to get filled basically no matter what. So that is less of a threat to me. But because of that, and because we had a high top here at 108, and then here we are back at 108, retesting it, fully filling this wick that was right here, this tells me this is a double top at the moment, and tap it once, tap it twice, we're probably going to go back down. Well, the 50 EMA right in here is going to act as support. We know this just historically. So chances are we're coming down to here, which means this one gets filled, so I'm not really worried about that either. What I am curious about, though, is really kind of this wick right here and really what's going to happen. Was this a retest of some of these wicks back here? Or is there so much liquidity here that we're going to need to retest the range? I actually think that is the case. I think that we're going to go up. We're going to fill this wick. It's going to come back down at least to this level. Now, this is where the question becomes, do I want to go long here and try to trade on the way up, or do I think it's going to come back down? It is January. January is not over. And if this was in March, I would say this guy's probably not getting filled. But at the same time, while these do look like big numbers, it is literally a 15, 16% drop, which is really not very much at all, knowing that most months are selling, most Januaries that we looked at in bull market years are selling off 30%. This is about half of what we've seen from previous, markets, which is totally fine. And I wouldn't say as an indicator of we're definitely going down 30%. Although if you remember me mapping this out last time, if this is our top, where is 30%? It's going to be down here by the 73. So it is kind of interesting that if we did have that big sell-off, it would go to here. That would really shake a lot of people out, and then it would just be like a bullet train heading up, which would be kind of interesting. So it's a matter of, can we suffer long enough to enjoy the upside? Everybody listening to this has probably been in Bitcoin since we've been talking about it forever. And you probably got in, especially when I was talking about how anything under the 200-day moving average, which was like $21,000, $22,000 at the time, anything under that, you just buy it. Why? Because statistically, it's rarely ever going to get down there. And for a lot of you, I talked about how I bought around 17,000 something, and then it dumped all the way down to 15 something. So pretty crazy. And even then, like, this really didn't look good at all. I thought this was going to break down one more leg, and we had our little reversal. So that was good. So kind of coming back up to this and looking at the range so you guys have a little bit of guidance into where I'm looking at things. I do think that we're filling this wick. In fact, I would check this off as it's 50% completed. So it might go all the way up. It might even form a new high. But I think that that is just kind of phase one. I think we're going to, once it gets overextended here, it'll come back down to the 50 EMA, just like this did. Gets really overextended, it wants to come back down. Gets overextended, it wants to come back down, right? The law of averages, it has to stay balanced. Otherwise, it is an unstable market. For this asset, 50-day moving average happens to be the one that it tracks the most with. And so that's typically how I make that decision, is where do I find the most correlation? Where am I seeing a lot of things happening? So if it doesn't hold there, where does it go? Well, what's really interesting is when you zoom out on this box, you've literally heard me talk about these blue lines before, this being support and resistance, this being the top. Well, where does that go at the bottom of the range? Could we see a sell off really even down into February? Very, very possibly. If we filled 100% of this thing and we did it in a handful of days, like I said, February 8th, that'd be what, a couple weeks? 8th. So like 2.5 weeks ish. It would literally tap this perfectly in line. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen. I think we're more likely to like tap it way up here somewhere. So I think it'll come back down, it'll consolidate, it'll go back up, it'll do its thing, and it might tap this again, only because it's had so much support and resistance along the way. So long story short, this is the top of the range. I think that we might break it, tap it, whatever, but I don't see us getting back in this trading range until this green little open area right here. I don't see us getting back into that until we've kind of cleared a little bit more here, have some more retest here. We also have our little blue line, which our 50-day EMA is kind of hovering around now. It's continued to act as support and resistance. So the 50-day EMA, really where it's going to be at in a couple of days. I think this week we're going to experience a sell-off just because we had this big move up. It's going to warrant a big move down like we've seen in the past, but we'll see. I'm expecting it to at least come down, fill this wick, touch the 50-day EMA around 95, 96. I personally, for those who are curious, I have orders set. We'll just say $93,000 and under to buy. Anything that comes down here, I'm buying. And that's because I don't think we're going to lose that range. And even if we do, we'll probably come all the way down here and we'll probably come up here and we'll get that resistance. As we'll come up, we'll hit this purple line, we'll bounce on it, and we can't break through it. And that's when it's going to sell off. And that's when it would go to like $85,000 or $73,000. And so I want to get in down here so that when it goes up, if I see it starting to come back down, I could set stop losses. I can get out without ever losing any money. And then I would have that capital to be able to reaccumulate down here. And I may miss out completely, but I've got orders in currently because it's in the middle of the night lately. It's been doing a lot of moving, and I'm not going to sit there and set alarms for the middle of the night. I want to go to sleep. So check, got that done. So that's the 3 wicks. That's what we're looking at first. We've got our range between basically 90,000 and 110,000, 109,000. Technically, the line that I actually have it at is 91,300. That's just the bottom of this wick. It fills a good chunk of this wick. It's also this in the past. It might be a little higher. It might be up here like basically 92. But again, I'm planning to buy some at 93 and a little bit under, and I have some just around the 100% wick of price right here, because I think if it comes down, it'll fill and then it'll reverse from there, and I can always take profits somewhere around the 50-day moving average or just let that ride. All right, so now you know where I'm at with Bitcoin. You kind of know what I'm thinking. I think the statistics state at this point that we are most likely to fill this wick or partially fill, which again, it's already kind of doing. The day hasn't closed, but I think that's going to happen. I think this wick gets filled solely because it's by the 50-day EMA, and I think we're going to come closer down to the bottom of the range one more time and freak everybody out. And that's where we're going to see, the decisions being made. So that is Bitcoin. So now the question is really what's going on in Bitcoin. What does that mean for everything else? I normally don't talk about altcoins, but I'm specifically going to talk about really kind of 2 different things. I really want to dig into the dominance, which we've really talked about before. The dominance, again, for those who are newer, this is literally all the money that's in crypto, but specifically in Bitcoin. So 58% right now of all the money in the crypto space, 58% is in Bitcoin. So that shows how much capital is being moved into Bitcoin versus everything else. So when it goes up, it means more money is going into Bitcoin. When it goes down, it means money is moving out of Bitcoin into other altcoin projects. And this is, as we know, the journey to altcoins here. We've consistently, as you see on this green line, we've consistently had this trend line going as support here and then resistance. And then it's just kind of rode hardcore until it sells off. And look at where that sold off to. What are the odds of that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I've said this before. It's really crazy to me sometimes, though, how you draw a line and then you're like, holy cow, it's kind of consistent. That's really bizarre. But it is what it is. I think that it's been going up. We're kind of getting closer to that, like, dude, we're gonna hit some reversals here soon, range. And the alts haven't really had their day in the sun yet. So I think we're getting close to where this is going to start to break down, and we're gonna sweep down here. It might be fast. It might look like this right? This is a good example of altcoin season. If Bitcoin's dumping this much in 2021, that means that all that money is going to altcoins and the people are taking profits. And that's where you hear these crazy stories. So first things first, we got to break this purple line, then again, the green line, which isn't near as important, but I think that we're going to come down here eventually. I think this 48% is probably going to act as support because it was resistance in the past. And that would mark essentially the end of altcoin season. And then it might bounce and consolidate around here. That's just my guess for the moment. Specifically for altcoins, knowing that the dominance has been going up, continuously going up, I think we're going to get a little bit of sell-off. I want to look at Ethereum, but specifically Ethereum is the second largest cryptocurrency. It is a blockchain. It does have its own blockchain, like the Bitcoin has its own blockchain, but it runs on a different, it's called a consensus, which is like how they agree. Instead of using energy and proof of work to prove that hey, I worked for this, that's why I deserve to get paid. This is a little bit more of a proof of staking. So those who have the largest stake essentially get to really make the votes. And that sounds familiar because that's how most of our world works right now. But when we look at Ethereum, and in fact, before we even look at Ethereum, I really want to look at the Ethereum and Bitcoin chart. And I'll go quickly through this, but it's really fascinating when you look at it. This chart shows you, instead of, when I look at a Bitcoin chart, it's Bitcoin USD, meaning I'm buying Bitcoin with my USD. And when I sell my Bitcoin, I will get more USD. Well, in this chart, it's Ethereum Bitcoin. So what I'm doing is I want to buy Ethereum, but I want to buy it with Bitcoin. And when I sell my Ethereum, I'll get more or less Bitcoin, depending on which direction it goes. So literally, if I sold my Bitcoin up here and I bought Ethereum with it, Bitcoin has performed better and Ethereum has, as you can see, performed worse. So if I sell it, I literally have less Bitcoin than I did when I started. These are Satoshis, Bitcoin Satoshis right here, which is the fractional number of, like, that's what Bitcoin is broken down as, a bunch of Satoshis, kind of like pennies and cents, right? So long story short, this has been selling off for what seems like since Vietnam. I mean, literally since 2021, basically the entire time. Ethereum has not really done hardly anything in the market. Has not, like, Bitcoin broke its all-time high. It went to new all-time highs. Ethereum hasn't even broke the all-time high from the last time. But there's two things I want you to look at. This yellow line, right? See, we got a bottom here, we got a bottom here, we got a bottom here. I specifically I made some Ethereum purchases here because I think Ethereum was going to perform better than Bitcoin, and it was like, no, gotcha. So the next level is probably going to be right in here where we see a little bit of resistance, some support, support, resistance, that kind of thing. It makes the most sense. But also, this thing has been trending now for so gosh darn long, and we're getting pretty extended from the moving average as well, that I think it's going to be Ethereum's time to shine here soon. So all this means is that Ethereum's only going to shine in comparison to Bitcoin, meaning that the prices of Bitcoin could stay the exact same, and just for, like, say, a month, and Ethereum could go up for a month. And if that happened, this would go up like this. So let's kind of move over to the Ethereum chart. Which one do I want to use? I guess we're going to use this one. I have several. Let's see here. So a couple of different things about the Ethereum chart. Number one, like I said, if we zoom out here, no, this is a perpetuals futures. We'll come back to that. All right, so here's the top from the very last cycle, right? So here is, don't view in log. Am I in log? No, I am not. So literally this guy right here was the top of 2017. This is the top of 2021. And in theory, this is going to be the top of 2026. Not always, but again, just pure speculation. The difference is everything else has gone to its all-time high and really pushed through. Ethereum is essentially kind of the mover that's like, hey, we're heading to altcoin season, finally heading to altcoin season. Like, we're going to make this happen. It has not been acting that way, though. But with that being said, it's just so beaten down and it's pretty much gone sideways and it hasn't really made a big move that I would think, and again, this is just my opinion, I would think that we probably will take off from here and we probably will at least head up to at least make an all-time high for Ethereum. So if this is the case, that's about a 45% move. This is my orange line is really I'd probably say my first big buying level when I kind of move things from Bitcoin to Ethereum because of performance levels. But this green area is my, like, I'm buying it if it gets down here for any reason. Right now, I think 3,000 is kind of the level that we're expecting to, retrace to, and that's because we had a big wick, and then we came back down and filled that wick. We went up. We have this big wick. What does that leave? That leaves all this open, you know, liquidity that it's going to want to retest as well. You can see that the purple line acts as a support, and then it goes under, and now it's I can't get its resistance. I can't get through it, and then it comes down. It acts as support, which is the great first sign. And so I think that we'll have a quick little sell off when Bitcoin has a little sell off. Start to fill some of this wick. So I've got orders placed around $3,000, a little under as well. And I've been trading this pretty consistently and had some good trades on this candle right here. But I'm expecting that with the Ethereum Bitcoin chart showing such weakness in Ethereum, and Ethereum really hasn't had a move in a long time, except for this guy right here, of course, which is fine. I'm expecting our next move, this quarter for sure. But I think in the next 15 to, I would say next couple of weeks probably is when we're about to see Ethereum kind of come up. And from an Ethereum Bitcoin standpoint, what that means is Ethereum could actually run up. And where would it go to? It's probably going to go to maybe the top of where it was, where all this resistance is. Or all this consolidation is, we're going to go up pretty high. And then you could, for example, if I have one Bitcoin now and it's been doing well, it's gone from 70,000 to 110,000. I sell that. I put it into Ethereum. Ethereum now goes from here to here. That's another 154% on the exact same thing. And now I have 154% more Bitcoin than I did earlier. Right? I'm not telling you to go do that, but if you had one Bitcoin, it's gone up and you sold it in theory, right? And then I put it into Ethereum and Ethereum doubles. When I sell it, I'll now have 2 Bitcoin instead of 1 Bitcoin with no additional money in it. And this idea of accumulating, appreciating assets is what my entire thesis has been on from literally the beginning of me getting into crypto. Because once you start losing money and people are stealing money from you, man, you start learning real quick what's going on and educating yourself. So that's my thought process on Ethereum. I think it is the next big mover, and we'll kind of see what happens. This is going to be a double top range. So if it comes up here, here's one top, we could see another top. If it doesn't push through this, I think it's going to stall out here, and the money will have moved from Bitcoin to Ethereum, and then we'll go from Ethereum. Then we'll have an alt season. May not be very long lived because I think Bitcoin's got some moving to do as well. Now that it's kind of tested all this range for the past little bit. How many weeks has this been? Back since, we'll call it here even, November. Yeah, since the election, right? So a couple of months of doing well and consolidating. It's ready to take its next leg up. So that's my thoughts. I really hope that helps. And even if it doesn't help, I hope you got something out of this. And if nothing else, I appreciate you taking time to kind of learn a little bit, dig into how you can reduce your risk, ultimately build your wealth, and focus on staying in the green and making money. We've got a lot of 2025 left. The year is definitely not over. And we're going to see a lot higher prices, I think, unless we see a big reversal signal here that really just screws everything up and changes, the worldview. Which that's a whole nother video. So, and that's just, it is a probability, but I think it's a lower probability as of this moment. So we'll kind of go from there. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Other than that, take care. We'll see you soon.